The morning sun was rising over Seoul when the first alien ship appeared in Earth's sky. The massive black vessel was bigger than any building humans had ever made. It hung in the air like a giant metal cloud, casting shadows over the entire city. Similar ships appeared over New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, and every other major city on Earth. Tai Min was drinking his morning coffee in his apartment when the emergency sirens began wailing. He had been a soldier for 15 years and knew the sound of danger. He grabbed his phone and saw hundreds of messages flooding in from his military contacts, all saying the same thing. Aliens were here, and they were not friendly. His sister Haewon was already at her job at the Space Center when the ships arrived. She was one of Earth's best scientists working on communication systems for space exploration, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. She watched through the window as the enormous alien vessel hovered above the city like a storm cloud that would never move. Across the galaxy on distant planets, thousands of different alien species were gathering around viewing screens. They had seen this show many times before. The Vorthan Empire was about to add another planet to their collection. It was always the same story. Overwhelming force followed by quick surrender, followed by slavery or death. On the mining world of Kepler, the blue-skinned Zentari were placing bets on how long Earth would last. The four-armed Greekans were laughing and sharing stories about the last planet the Vorthons had conquered. The insect-like Hivari were discussing the best ways to use human slaves in their mining operations. Everyone knew how this would end. The Vorthons had perfected their invasion strategy over 300 successful conquests. First, they would demonstrate their power by destroying something impressive, but not too valuable. This showed the local population that resistance was hopeless. Then, they would demand surrender. Most species gave up immediately. Those who did not were eliminated completely, but the beings watching from across the galaxy did not understand humans very well. They had studied Earth's technology and found it primitive. They had analyzed human, military capabilities and deemed them laughable. They had observed human society and concluded it was chaotic and weak. What they did not know was that humans had something no other species possessed: pure stubborn determination. Admiral Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of Earth's only space-capable military vessel. It was not much compared to the alien ships, just a converted research station with some missiles attached, but it was flying, and it was ready to fight. He looked at his crew of 30 volunteers and saw fear in their eyes, but also something else. He saw anger. The alien ships had been hovering for 6 hours without doing anything. This confused many people on Earth, but it did not confuse Kyung-ho. He knew they were waiting for something. He had studied military history his entire life and recognized psychological warfare when he saw it. The aliens wanted humans to be afraid. They wanted panic. They wanted surrender. In his underground command bunker, Tai Min was coordinating with military leaders around the world. Every major city had emergency protocols for disaster situations, but nobody had really expected alien invasion. The protocols existed anyway because humans always planned for the worst-case scenario. General Dongwu was in the Pentagon talking to leaders from every nation on Earth. For the first time in human history, every country was working together toward the same goal. The Russians shared their missile codes. The Chinese offered their manufacturing capacity. The Americans provided their satellite networks. The Europeans contributed their scientific knowledge. Dr. So Young was in her laboratory in Tokyo, studying the electromagnetic signatures coming from the alien ships she had been working on. Advanced physics for 20 years and could see patterns in the alien technology that others missed. The ships were powerful, but they were not invincible. They had weaknesses, and she was going to find them. Back on Kepler, the alien spectators were getting impatient. The Vorthons usually moved much faster than this. Some species were complaining that this invasion was boring, compared to others. The betting pools were becoming more creative with wagers on exactly how the humans would surrender. What none of the Galactic Watchers understood was that the 6-hour delay had given Earth something precious: time. Every minute the alien ships waited was another minute for human preparation. Military leaders were moving troops. Scientists were analyzing alien technology. Civilians were evacuating to safer locations. The Vorthon fleet commander was following standard protocol to the letter, Phase 1 was intimidation through presence. Phase 2 would be demonstration of power. Phase 3 would be surrender demands. The system had worked perfectly on every other world. Why would Earth be different? Young engineer Seung Min was working frantically in a secret facility beneath the Swiss mountains. He was part of a project that officially did not exist. Earth had been building experimental space fighters for 5 years. The project was considered impossible by most scientists, but impossible had never stopped humans before. His prototype fighter was barely functional. It could reach space, and it had weapons, but it was essentially a missile with a pilot. The survival rate for anyone flying it was close to 0. But Seung Min had volunteered anyway because someone had to do it, and he was the best pilot they had. Meanwhile, in cities around the world, ordinary people were making extraordinary preparations. Teacher Bo-ram was organizing her students into communication networks. Mechanic Hyun-woo was modifying civilian vehicles into weapons. Dr. Soo-jin was studying everything known about alien biology from science fiction stories. The most important preparation was happening in places the aliens could not see. Underground tunnel systems that had been built during the Cold War were being converted into military bases. Subway systems were becoming troop movement corridors. Basements were becoming weapons factories. Na-young, the computer programmer, was working on something the aliens definitely did not expect. She was preparing to hack their systems. Nobody knew if it would work because nobody had ever tried to hack alien technology before. But humans had always been good at breaking things that were not supposed to be broken. As the sun began to set over Earth, the alien ships finally started to move. The demonstration of power was about to begin. The galaxy leaned forward to watch what they expected to be a quick and brutal show of Vorthon superiority. But down on Earth, something was different from every other world the Vorthons had conquered. The humans were not cowering in fear. They were not preparing to surrender. Instead, they were getting angry. And an angry human was something the galaxy had never seen before. The first phase of the invasion was about to begin, but neither side truly understood what they were starting. The aliens thought they were conquering another primitive world. The humans thought they were fighting for survival. What was actually happening was the beginning of a war that would change the entire galaxy forever. The Watchers, from distant worlds, settled in to enjoy the show. They had no idea they were about to witness something that would become legend across 1,000 star systems, the day Earth stopped being prey and became predator. The demonstration began exactly at dawn Australian time. The Vorthon plasma cannons charged with energy that made the air itself glow green. The target was carefully chosen, an empty stretch of the Australian outback, far from any human settlements. The aliens wanted to show their power without actually killing anyone yet. The blast created a crater 5 kilometers wide and half a kilometer deep. The explosion could be seen from orbit, and the shockwave registered on seismic equipment around the world. It was meant to terrify humanity into immediate surrender. Instead, something unexpected happened. Dr. So-young was broadcasting live from her laboratory in Tokyo when the crater appeared on satellite images. She looked at the data for exactly 3 seconds, then started laughing. The sound echoed through her laboratory and was picked up by every news network on Earth. "You traveled 47 light years to dig a hole in empty dirt," she said, still chuckling. "My grandmother could do better, with a construction shovel. This is your big, scary demonstration." Really, her laughter was infectious, and within minutes, humans around the world were sharing the joke. The aliens had made their first critical mistake. They had given humanity something to mock instead of something to fear. The Vorthon fleet commander was confused by the response. Every other species had immediately begun surrender negotiations after the demonstration. Earth was making jokes. Across the galaxy, the alien Watchers were also confused. The Zentari stopped placing bets and started arguing about human psychology. The Greekans were rewatching footage of the human response, trying to understand what they were missing. The Hivari were consulting their databases, looking for similar reactions from other conquered species. They found none. General Dongwu was in his command center, coordinating the global response. The alien demonstration had actually helped him by showing exactly what their weapons could do. The plasma cannons were powerful, but they had limited range and took time to charge. Between shots, the alien ships were vulnerable. Taman was moving his Special Forces unit through Seoul, using underground tunnels that connected to the subway system. His men were carrying weapons that had been designed specifically for fighting in urban environments against superior technology. The key was not to fight fair, but to fight smart. His sister Haewon was working with international teams to analyze the alien ships in detail. The 6-hour delay before the demonstration had given Earth enough time to point every telescope, satellite, and radio dish at the Vorthan fleet. They now had detailed scans of alien technology. What they found was both encouraging and terrifying. The alien ships were incredibly advanced, but they were also incredibly complex. Every system depended on every other system. If you could damage the right components, the entire ship might become helpless. Engineer Young-soo was deep, underground in a facility that officially did not exist. He was putting the final touches on weapons that had been designed in secret for exactly this scenario. The projects had been funded by every major nation working together in unprecedented cooperation. The second wave of Vorthan ships began descending toward Earth's major cities. These were troop transports and support vessels designed to land ground forces for occupation. The fleet commander expected to meet scattered resistance from primitive human weapons. Instead, the aliens flew into the most coordinated defense in Earth's history. Every satellite in orbit had been repositioned to create overlapping fields of observation and communication. Every military base was connected to every other military base through quantum-encrypted networks. The first alien transport ship to enter the atmosphere above New York was met by 50 nuclear missiles launched simultaneously from locations around the world. The missiles had been modified with human engineering that the aliens did not understand. Each warhead was designed to create maximum electromagnetic disruption. Admiral Kyung-ho watched from his command ship as the alien vessel's shields flickered under the coordinated nuclear assault. The shields held, but they were clearly struggling. Nobody had expected the primitive humans to coordinate attacks from multiple continents simultaneously. The second transport tried to land near London and found the airspace filled with thousands of drones. Each drone was small, cheap, and expendable, but together they formed a swarm that confused alien targeting systems. While the transport was dealing with drones, British missiles struck from unexpected angles. Dr. Jin-ah was in her laboratory beneath the Swiss Alps working on the most important project of her career. She had been analyzing alien communication signals and had found patterns. The Vortans used quantum entanglement for instant communication across space, but the system had vulnerabilities. Her team had built a device that could theoretically disrupt alien communications, but it had never been tested. Nobody knew if it would work or if using it would make things worse, but desperate times called for desperate measures. The third alien transport approaching Moscow ran into something completely unexpected. Russian engineers had modified their air defense systems with new targeting algorithms designed specifically for alien technology. The transport's shields were designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic projectiles, but not both at the same time. Captain Min-ho was leading his unit through the subway tunnels beneath Seoul, preparing for urban warfare. His team included people who had never been soldiers before, but who had skills the military needed. Yoonji had been a chef, but her knowledge of chemistry made her an expert in improvised explosives. 17-year-old Jae-sung had spent his entire life playing military strategy games and was now using those skills to coordinate drone swarms. His fingers moved across multiple keyboards, controlling hundreds of small aircraft that swarmed around alien ships like angry insects. The fourth transport ship made it through Earth's defenses and actually touched down in a field outside Cairo. Egyptian forces had prepared a welcome party that the aliens would never forget. The landing site had been mined with explosives hidden underground for weeks. As soon as the alien ship landed, the explosives detonated. The ship itself was too heavily armored to be destroyed, but the landing created a crater that trapped the vessel. Egyptian forces immediately began attacking with everything they had while the ship was stuck. Back in space, the Vorthan fleet commander was facing something unprecedented in the Empire's history. 4 transport ships had been damaged or destroyed before landing any troops. The humans were fighting with coordination and creativity that defied all previous analysis. The alien watchers across the galaxy were no longer laughing. The betting pools had shifted dramatically. Some species were beginning to whisper that maybe the Vorthons had finally met their match. Others were wondering if humans might actually win. Young pilot Seung-min was strapping himself into the cockpit of Earth's most experimental fighter. The craft was essentially a guided missile with life support systems. His mission was simple: fly directly at the alien command ship and cause as much damage as possible before being destroyed. But as his fighter launched from its hidden base, Seung-min discovered he was not alone. Every available aircraft on Earth was rising to join him. Military jets, civilian planes, helicopters, crop dusters, even modified gliders, all of them heading toward the alien fleet. The Vorthon commander watched in disbelief as thousands of primitive human aircraft swarmed toward his technologically superior ships. It was tactically insane. The humans had no chance of survival against advanced alien weapons. Yet they kept coming. For the first time in 300 successful invasions, the Vorthon Empire had taken casualties before establishing ground control. The humans had drawn first blood, and across the galaxy everyone was watching. The real war began when Vorthon ground forces finally reached Earth's surface. Their dropships landed in major cities around the world and deployed thousands of alien soldiers. The troops wore advanced armor that could stop most human weapons and carried energy rifles that could cut through steel. But when the aliens secured their landing zones, they found something impossible. The cities were empty. Every major population center on Earth had been evacuated through underground tunnel systems that the aliens never knew existed. Millions of humans had simply vanished beneath the surface. Captain Minho was leading his unit through Seoul's subway system, but it no longer looked like public transportation. The tunnels had been converted into a military maze over the past week. Weapons caches were hidden in old storage rooms. Medical stations operated in abandoned ticket booths. Command centers coordinated operations from train platforms. His team moved like ghosts through passages that connected subway lines to storm drains to building basements to utility tunnels. The network went everywhere, and the aliens could not map it because it had been built over decades by different agencies for different purposes. Yoonji had been a chef before the invasion, but now she was the team's expert on alien biology. She had studied every piece of information Earth's scientists had gathered about Vorthon physiology. The aliens were strong and well-armored, but they had weaknesses that could be exploited. 17-year-old Jae-sung controlled a swarm of small drones from his mobile command post. The drones were everywhere in the tunnel system, providing eyes and ears for human forces. They could also carry small explosive charges and had been modified to move silently through air vents and sewage pipes. Above ground, the Vorthon forces controlled the surface, but below ground, humanity ruled supreme. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy they could not see against tactics. They did not understand every human city had become a trap engineer. Young-soo was coordinating the most audacious engineering project in human history. From his command bunker beneath New York, he was directing teams of construction workers who were using heavy machinery as weapons. Excavators and bulldozers had been modified with armor and weapon systems. His plan was simple, but insane. If the aliens wanted to control Earth's cities, then the cities would fight back. Buildings that had stood for decades were rigged with explosives. Skyscrapers became giant weapons waiting to fall on alien positions. Construction cranes were turned into artillery platforms. The Vorthons had experience fighting in cities, but they had never fought against cities themselves. When alien troops secured a building, they would find it collapsing on top of them. When they established a command post, it would suddenly sink into the ground as subway tunnels beneath it were collapsed. Dr. Jinna was working frantically in her hidden laboratory to crack Vorthon communication systems. The aliens coordinated their ground forces through quantum communication links to their orbiting ships. But quantum systems had rules, and rules could be broken. She had discovered that Vorthon military communications used a centralized command structure. Every soldier received orders from the orbiting fleet. Cut those communications and the ground forces would be isolated and confused. Teacher turned guerrilla fighter, Boram was leading civilian volunteers in retaking Seoul block by block. Her tactics were simple. Know every street, every building, every hiding place better than the enemy. Her team included Shopkeepers, mechanics, students, and grandmothers, all united by anger. The aliens were trained for conventional warfare against organized military forces. They were not prepared to fight an entire population that treated every piece of infrastructure as a potential weapon. Water mains became tools for flooding. Alien positions' power lines were rerouted to electrify metal surfaces. Maintenance worker Hyunwoo knew every pipe, cable, and tunnel in his district. Better than that, he knew how to shut them all down systematically. Alien forces would secure an area, only to find themselves without power, water, communications, or even basic lighting. The psychological warfare was devastating. Vorthan soldiers who were used to facing terrified populations found themselves stalked by humans who seemed to appear from nowhere, strike without warning, and disappear before retaliation was possible. Former computer programmer Na Young had achieved something that should have been impossible. She had successfully hacked, captured alien equipment. The Vorthan technology was advanced, but it still followed logical principles. Once you understood the logic, you could break it. She turned alien communication devices into broadcasting systems that spread human propaganda. She converted alien sensors into tools that gave false information to Vorthan command. She even managed to take control of some alien weapons and turn them against their own forces. Veterinarian Su Jin was studying captured alien biological samples in a makeshift laboratory. Her discovery changed everything. The Vorthans were genetically engineered for specific environmental conditions. Earth's bacteria, which was harmless to humans, was potentially lethal to alien biology. The information spread through human underground networks faster than any alien communication system could match within hours. Every resistant cell on Earth knew that the invaders were vulnerable to Earth's own ecosystem. Gardens became biological weapons. Hospital waste became strategic resources. Even common household items like cleaning supplies could be weaponized against alien biology. The home field advantage was not just geographical, it was biological across the galaxy. The alien watchers were seeing something unprecedented. Every other species, the Vorthans, had conquered, had either surrendered quickly or fought conventional military campaigns that could be easily defeated. But humans were fighting like no other species in galactic history. They used their infrastructure as weapons, their cities as fortresses, and their own planet's biology as an ally. Every human seemed to be a soldier, and every soldier seemed to know exactly how to hurt the invaders. The Vorthan fleet commander was facing a crisis that had never occurred in Empire history. His ground forces controlled territory during the day, but lost it again at night. His supply lines were constantly under attack. His communication networks were being disrupted by human hackers. Worse, the humans were learning and adapting faster than any species. The Empire had encountered every Vorthan tactic that worked, once failed when tried a second time. The humans studied alien methods and developed countermeasures within hours in the tunnels beneath London. Captain Sarah was leading a strike team toward an alien command post. The approach required crawling through sewage pipes for 2 kilometers, but her team did not complain. They had learned that human determination could overcome any obstacle. The aliens had superior technology, but humans had superior knowledge of their own world. Every tunnel, every basement, every storm drain was mapped in human minds but invisible to alien scanners. By the end of the first week of ground operations, the Vorthan Empire was facing something unthinkable. They were losing. The primitive humans were not just resisting. They were winning through tactics that defied all military logic. The galactic audience that had gathered to watch humanity's destruction was witnessing something that would become legend. The day Earth's cities fought back and an entire planet became a weapon. By day 7 of the invasion, the impossible was happening. The mighty Vorthan Empire was losing to what they had considered primitive natives. Their advanced ground forces were trapped in cities that fought back. Their supply lines were under constant attack and their casualties were mounting daily. The Vorthan fleet commander was facing his first real defeat in a career spanning 3 centuries of successful conquests. His officers were reporting situations that defied all military logic. Resistance was not decreasing over time, it was getting stronger and more coordinated. Dr. Gina made the breakthrough that changed everything. From her laboratory buried deep in the Swiss Alps, she had been working around the clock to understand. Fourth-hand communication systems. The quantum encryption was incredibly complex, but it had one fatal flaw. The entire alien ground force received orders through a centralized command network. Every soldier, every vehicle, every weapon system was connected to the orbiting command ships through a single quantum communication array. If that array could be destroyed or damaged, the entire ground invasion would be cut off from coordination. The plan she proposed was beyond insane by any reasonable military standard. It required flying a single human fighter directly into the heart of the alien fleet, bypassing all defenses and striking the most heavily protected part of the command ship. The survival chances were effectively zero. Pilot Sung Min reviewed the mission parameters and immediately volunteered. His experimental fighter was basically a nuclear missile with a cockpit and life support. The craft could reach the alien fleet, but bringing the pilot back alive was not part of the design. But as news of the mission spread through Earth's communication network, something unprecedented happened. Every pilot on the planet volunteered to join the attack. Military pilots, civilian aviators, cargo plane operators, crop dusters, helicopter pilots, even people who flew experimental aircraft as hobbies. Admiral Kyung-ho watched from his command ship as thousands of human aircraft began launching from hidden bases around the world. The fleet that rose to challenge the alien invaders included everything that could fly, from advanced fighter jets to modified civilian planes. The Vorthan fleet commander could not believe what he was seeing on his displays. Thousands of primitive human aircraft were swarming toward his technologically superior ships. It was tactically impossible. The humans had no shields, no advanced weapons, no chance of survival. What the alien commander did not understand was human psychology. These pilots were not expecting to survive. They were expecting to win. There is a difference that had never been seen before in galactic warfare. Captain Minho was coordinating ground operations from the Seoul subway tunnels. When reports came in about the massive air attack, his teams were ordered to prepare for a coordinated strike the moment alien communications went down. Teacher Bo-ram was leading her civilian fighters through the underground passages, connecting different parts of the city. Her volunteers included teenagers, grandparents, office workers, and shop owners, all united by determination to take back their world. Engineer Young-soo had prepared for this moment by rigging every major building in New York with explosives connected to remote detonators. The moment alien ground forces lost contact with their fleet, the buildings would become weapons maintenance expert. Hyunwoo was ready to shut down power, water, and communications to every alien position in his district simultaneously. The aliens would find themselves cut off from everything they needed to maintain their occupation. Former chef Yoonji had prepared biological weapons using Earth's own ecosystem against alien biology. Her team had cultivated bacteria that was harmless to humans, but potentially deadly to Vorthan physiology programmer. Na Young had spent days preparing computer viruses designed specifically for alien technology systems. The moment their quantum communications failed, her viruses would spread through every captured device and turn their own equipment against them. The swarm of human aircraft approached the alien fleet like angry insects. Each plane was individually weak, but together, they created a targeting nightmare for alien defensive systems. The Vorthans had never faced an enemy willing to sacrifice everything for victory. Seung Min's experimental fighter was lost in the middle of thousands of other aircraft. His mission was to reach the command ship's communication array, but every other pilot was drawing enemy fire away from his approach. The entire attack was one giant distraction operation. Alien laser weapons were cutting down human aircraft by the dozens, but more kept coming. Crop dusters were ramming into alien fighters. Military jets were using their missiles to clear paths for civilian planes. Helicopters were attacking alien ships at point-blank range. The Vorthan defensive systems were designed to handle organized military attacks with predictable tactics. They were not designed to handle thousands of individual pilots, all acting independently. But toward the same goal, veterinarian Soo Jin was monitoring the battle from her biological research station. She had discovered that Vorthan soldiers became disoriented when separated from their command network. The aliens were genetically engineered to follow orders without question. 17-year-old Jae Sung was controlling hundreds of small drones from his underground command post. The drones were too small for alien weapons to target effectively, but they carried cameras that provided real-time intelligence to human ground forces, as the swarm of human aircraft engaged the alien fleet in desperate combat. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. No species had ever mounted such a suicidal attack against superior forces. No military leader had ever ordered such wasteful tactics, but the tactics were working. Through sheer numbers and absolute determination, human aircraft were penetrating alien defenses. Multiple fighters had reached the command ship and were striking at its communication. System Seungmin's fighter broke through the command ship's final defensive layer. His nuclear warhead detonated directly against the quantum communication array. The explosion severed the connection between the orbital fleet and every ground force. On Earth, instantly Vorthan soldiers around the world found themselves cut off from orders, isolated in hostile territory, facing an enemy that knew every street, every building, every hiding place. The genetically engineered troops began to panic without constant guidance. Human forces struck simultaneously across the globe. Buildings collapsed on alien positions, power grids shut down, cutting off alien equipment. Biological weapons were released into alien-held areas. Computer viruses spread through captured technology. The coordinated human counterattack was devastating. Alien forces that had controlled territory for a week suddenly found themselves surrounded by enemies emerging from tunnels they never knew existed across the galaxy. Alien spectators were witnessing something that would become legend. A primitive species had just defeated an advanced military force through tactics that defied all conventional wisdom. The betting pools that had predicted human extinction within days were closing with unprecedented losses. The Vorthans, who had conquered 300 civilizations, were losing to humans who had never fought an interstellar war. But the real shock was yet to come. As alien ground forces struggled without communication, Earth's resistance revealed just how much they had been holding back. The past week had been preparation. The real war was about to begin. With their command structure completely destroyed, the once mighty Vorthan invasion force had become scattered prey, being hunted by an increasingly confident human population. The aliens who had conquered 300 worlds now found themselves isolated in small groups on a hostile planet that seemed determined to kill them. Teacher Boram emerged from the Seoul subway tunnels leading 200 civilian volunteers, armed with improvised weapons and an intimate knowledge of their city. The aliens controlled the main streets, but humans owned everything else. Every alley, every rooftop, every basement was territory. They understood perfectly. Her tactics were brutally simple: strike without warning from unexpected directions, then disappear. Before the enemy could respond, use the city itself as a weapon. Lead alien patrols into ambushes in narrow alleys where their advanced armor became a disadvantage. The psychological warfare was devastating. Vorthan soldiers who had been genetically engineered to follow orders found themselves making independent decisions for the first time in their lives. Many simply froze up, unable to function without constant guidance from their orbital command maintenance worker. Hyun Woo had turned the IG entire infrastructure of his district into a weapon against the occupying forces. Water mains could be opened to flood alien positions. Power lines could be rerouted to electrify metal surfaces. Gas lines could be turned into massive explosives. His knowledge of the city's underground systems made him nearly invisible to alien detection equipment. He could appear anywhere, strike at alien supply lines or communication equipment, then vanish through maintenance tunnels that did not appear on any map. The most devastating discovery came from veterinarian Su Jin, who had been studying alien biology in her improvised laboratory. The Vorthans were genetically engineered for specific environmental conditions, but Earth's bacteria was proving lethal to their enhanced immune systems. What started as a biological curiosity became a strategic weapon. Earth's own ecosystem was fighting against the invaders. Common soil bacteria that humans lived with every day was causing severe illness in alien troops. Hospital waste became a source of biological weapons. The information spread through human resistance networks faster than any alien communication system. Within hours, every cell knew that the invaders were vulnerable to Earth itself. Gardens became weapons laboratories. Compost piles became strategic resources. Former programmer Nei Young had achieved complete penetration of alien computer systems. With their quantum communication network destroyed, the aliens were relying on local area networks that were much easier to hack. She turned their own technology against them. Alien vehicles received false navigation data that led them into human ambushes. Weapon systems developed targeting errors that made them fire on their own. Forces communication devices began broadcasting human propaganda in alien languages. Captain Minho was leading coordinated strikes against isolated alien positions, using tactics that had never been seen in galactic warfare. His teams would surround enemy strongholds, then systematically cut off power-water communications and supply lines. The aliens would find themselves trapped in buildings that were slowly becoming uninhabitable. As life support systems failed and supplies ran out, Vorthon morale collapsed. Many alien soldiers simply abandoned their positions and tried to flee. Engineer Young-Soo had prepared the ultimate surprise for the remaining alien forces. Every major building in New York had been rigged with explosives during the first week of occupation. Now that alien command was destroyed, he could turn the entire city into a weapon. Skyscrapers that aliens had been using as observation posts suddenly collapsed. Ancient subway tunnels were blown to create sinkholes that swallowed alien vehicles. Construction equipment modified with weapons hunted alien patrols through the streets. The coordination was perfect. Human forces struck simultaneously across the planet. Every alien position faced the same systematic destruction. Of their ability to survive on Earth, cities that had seemed conquered revealed themselves to be elaborate traps. 17-year-old Jae Sung was coordinating drone swarms that provided real-time intelligence to human forces across multiple continents. His video game skills had translated perfectly to commanding hundreds of small aircraft that swarmed around alien positions like mechanical insects. The drones were too small and numerous for alien weapons to target effectively, but they carried cameras, explosives, and biological weapons that could strike at any moment. Alien soldiers never knew when death might come from above. Former chef Yoonji had become an expert in chemical warfare, using common household and industrial chemicals to create weapons that alien armor could not stop. Cleaning supplies became poison gas. Fertilizer became explosives. Kitchen chemicals became acid weapons. Her knowledge of chemistry combined with access to Earth's industrial infrastructure made her team capable of producing weapons that the aliens had never encountered. Even their advanced medical systems could not treat poisoning from Earth's own industrial chemicals. The hunting was relentless. Human forces would track alien patrols through cities they knew intimately, leading the invaders into kill zones where every advantage belonged to the defenders. Rooftop snipers would pick off alien scouts, while underground teams planted explosives. Alien forces that tried to retreat found their escape routes blocked by collapsed buildings or flooded tunnels. Those who tried to dig in discovered that humans had spent weeks preparing every defensive position as a trap. The most terrifying aspect for the aliens was the coordination. Human resistance cells were sharing information and coordinating attacks across continents faster than alien military communications had ever achieved. The entire planet was acting as a single organism. Veterinarian Su Jin made another crucial discovery about alien psychology. The Vorthons had been genetically modified to be perfect soldiers, but this made them predictable. Human forces could anticipate alien tactics because the aliens always followed the same patterns, but humans were unpredictable, chaotic, creative, and willing to use any method that worked. Alien military doctrine had no defense against enemies who treated warfare as a creative exercise rather than following established rules. The galactic audience, watching from distant worlds, was witnessing something unprecedented in their recorded history. An advanced military force was being systematically destroyed by primitives, using tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. Species that had been conquered by the Vorthons were taking notes. Learning that resistance was possible if you were willing to fight dirty enough to use your own world as a weapon, to think creatively about violence. By the end of the second week, every major alien position on Earth was under siege, not by organized military forces but by entire human populations that had decided the invaders needed to leave. Cities had become hostile organisms that actively tried to kill anyone who did not belong. The Vorthon Empire faced something unthinkable. Their invasion force was being eliminated by creatures they had considered barely sentient. The predators had become prey, and Earth had become a hunting ground. 3 months after the first alien ship appeared in Earth's sky, the last Vorthan survivor fled the planet in a damaged escape pod. The mighty empire that had conquered 300 civilizations had been completely destroyed by a species they had considered primitive. The galaxy had watched the impossible happen. Ambassador Wu Jin stood before the newly formed Galactic Council representing Earth in its first official contact with alien civilizations. The chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all of whom had watched humanity's victory with a mixture of horror and fascination. The betting pools that had predicted human extinction within days had closed with unprecedented losses across multiple star systems. Every species now understood that humans were not prey. They were something far more dangerous. They were completely unpredictable. The Vorthan Empire, which had seemed invincible for over 1,000 years, was facing rebellion on dozens of worlds. If primitive, humans could resist successfully, why couldn't other species? The galactic balance of power had shifted overnight. Captain Taemin, who had coordinated Sol's underground resistance, was now Admiral Taemin, overseeing construction of Earth's first interstellar fleet. The ship designs incorporated both human engineering and salvaged alien technology, creating vessels unlike anything seen in galactic space. More importantly, the ships incorporated human tactical thinking. Every vessel was designed to be both transportation and weapon. Every system had multiple backup purposes. Every crew member was trained in improvised warfare and creative problem-solving. His sister, Dr. Hei-Wan, established Earth's first diplomatic corps, but with a distinctly human approach. Every ambassador was also trained in survival tactics. Every trade negotiation included military considerations. Every peaceful contact prepared for the possibility that diplomacy might fail. The galaxy quickly learned that dealing with humans required completely different approaches than had been used with other species. Humans assumed every agreement might be broken. Every ally might become an enemy. Every peaceful situation might turn violent without warning. This was not paranoia. It was realism. Humanity had learned that in a dangerous galaxy, survival required constant preparation for conflict. Even their most peaceful diplomatic missions included military advisors and emergency evacuation plans. Young engineer Seung Min, who had survived his impossible mission against the alien command ship, was now designing Earth's orbital defense.